Today we're talking TACAN Radio navigation. We'll grab our home base's frequency from the F10 map. The first step is tuning our TACAN radio, found on the right side panel. On the top left we've got the TACAN test switch, which will flash both the failure and signal lights. Centrally we have the TACAN frequency window. Let's program in our TACAN station. The right hand knob outer ring allows us to select the mode from off, receive only, transmit receive and air to air. Selecting receive allows us to listen to TACAN beacons passively, providing only bearing to the TACAN station. Transmit receive enables our own transmitter to calculate bearing and range. And air to air, which is for tracking airborne TACAN stations such as a tanker aircraft. We can receive a TACAN signal up to roughly 300 nautical miles from the TACAN beacon depending on the strength of the transmitter. We'll use transmit receive for our airbase. The inner segment of the knob allows us to select the units. You can use the mouse wheel scroll or click and drag to rotate. Using the left hand knob, inner ring, we can select the tens and hundreds and we'll match it to the station we want to track. Finally, we'll configure between X and Y TACAN bands with the outer segment of the left knob. Shortly after tuning the TACAN radio correctly, we'll see the green light illuminate and hear a Morse code identifier play. To stop the noise driving us crazy, we'll hop over to the volume panel on the left and turn off the TACAN volume. Up on the right side of the instrument panel we've got the Navigation Indicator. Inside the dial sits our heading compass. It's currently off, so a number of cautions are present, so we'll explain those. The red square indicates a VOR failure. The red square of an X, the indicator itself has a failure, or is off. And the line through the counter which indicates a ranging failure. Along the bottom is the mode selector, currently in erect or off. VT enables the display of VOR and TACAN. TE displays radar cursor bearing only, and TT will show our radar bearing and TACAN. We'll use TT mode. We can test the gauge by pushing the T button on the right. The outer arrow should align with the green mark at 45 and 250 should be shown on the range to pass the test. Alright, let's start breaking down what we're looking at. At the top we've got the aircraft's heading index showing the direction we're facing. Beside that, the selected heading marker. This is configured with the heading dial found beside our oxygen indicator. It serves as a personal reference for desired heading. You align it with the heading you wish to fly, and then turn the jet to place the heading mark at the top within the V marker. Moving inside, we've got the larger of two arrows. This will always be our TACAN signal, and will point towards our TACAN beacon or TACAN offset. Inside once more we've got the radar scan field of view represented. Within we have the smaller arrow which can either point to the bearing of our radar's target designation box, or the relative bearing towards the tuned VOR beacon in VT mode. Finally we've got the counter which displays the range to our TACAN beacon. So with a TACAN station tuned we've got the pointer towards our beacon and the distance from it. If we want to fly to the beacon, we'd simply align our heading marker with the TACAN arrow and watch the distance count down. We can use this to navigate to a specific airbase or beacon. You may wish to fly a specific radial away from a beacon, which is common in approach and departure charts, or you might want to fly to a specific location relative to the beacon. Our Navigation Indicator has a special additional vector mode for this exact purpose. On the right side you can select the relative bearing and distance to offset from our TACAN beacon. Let's use the F10 map. We'll locate our beacon. Using the ruler tool by holding right mouse button we then measure the offset from our TACAN beacon to the location we want to fly to. Take note of the distance and degrees that we've measured. In the cockpit, we'll enter these by rotating the inner segment of the knob at the bottom until we're happy with the distance set. Now we'll rotate the outer segment from distance to relative bearing. Then with the inner we'll adjust the bearing to match our measurements. With both set, we can now toggle between normal and additional vector modes. With this position selected, the needles now show us the direction and distance to the offset point that we've entered, rather than directly to our beacon. Rather clever, no? We can now use TACAN to fly directly to our offset location, by using the cues in the additional vector mode. Now you might notice we're a little bit off. That's because our map reads true north, whilst our aircraft has magnetic north. So over a larger distance you're going to want to correct for magnetic declination. Even an error of 1 degree can put you off course by 2.5 miles by the time you've travelled 100 miles from the beacon. Finally, let's look at approaching our airbase using TACAN. Our runway is heading 280, and we are here. You can make use of the Omni bearing selector to align ourselves with the runway. We'll rotate the base of the dial to TACAN and then select our desired course, the runway's heading of 280. Our spherical indicator will now show us the deviation from our course with the yellow vertical bar. Remember, this is deviation, not a flight director, so do not chase the bar. If we're off to the left, the needle will drift to the right in the direction of our radial. And if we're off to the right, the needle will move back to the left. You'll also note the to and from indicator on the top left. If we're flying towards the selected radial, we'll see to, and should we turn 180 degrees, we will see from instead, indicating that we are flying away from the beacon. You could use this to fly in the opposite course from our beacon if you desire, but remember the deviation is still showing the to direction. So to center on the from course, we will have to correct in the opposite direction to the deviation needle. In effect, we can use our spherical indicator to fly along a specific radial to or from any beacon. Alright, let's get ourselves on approach. First we need to intercept the radial our course is set to, so we'll fly a route something like this. For easy reference, we're going to match the heading marker to 280. As we cross the radial, we'll see the bar on our spherical indicator start to center, and the TACAN direction will also align with 280. Now, to avoid simply flying through the radial, we'll turn to match our heading to the course as the deviation bar centers. As we fly, use the spherical indicator to monitor deviation. As corrections are needed, adjust your heading 10 to 45 degrees depending on the severity and distance. Aim to return your heading to 280 as we intercept the 280 radial once more, as guided by the spherical indicator, aiding us in flying down the desired radial so that we arrive at the runway in the correct position to begin our landing. Remember that the spherical indicator can only follow the beacon itself and does not make use of offsets from the navigation indicator. So we now know how to navigate via TACAN. Don't forget your map reading skills and looking out the window to assist your navigation. I hope you enjoyed, and take care.